Morning, Kal Kadosh, Masechet Bava Batra Daf Amud Aleph 16a1. We are speaking about right now. We were talking about Iyov, if you remember, and we were speaking about the entire concept that Hakadosh Baruch Hu said, "What? You don't know who Iyov is?" So the Satan said, "What? You gave him all the bracha. What do you want? Obviously, he's going to bless you, and he's going to do this. Obviously, okay." Says the Gemara, Tetzai Amud Aleph on the top. One shliach comes, the other one goes. Right? One shliach goes, the other one comes. He says there was a fire that came out from the heaven. And it consumed the sheep and the children, and it ate them up. I'm the only one that's here. I'm the refuge. They came and they took everything. בניך ובנותיך אוכלים ושותים ימים ואת אחיהם הבכור. הנה רוח גדולה באה מעבר המדבר, ויגע בארבע פינות הבית, ויפולו לנערים וימותו. They all died. All the children, the boys, the girls, they're eating there and everything. Boom, everything, they all died. ויקום איוב ויקרא מאילוב. He lost everything in 2 minutes. One comes, one goes. One comes, one goes. One comes, boom. That's what happened. ויאמר ארום יצאתי מבטן אמי. He says, just like when he came out of his mother's womb, he came out without nothing. So too, he came out without nothing. Hashem Natan, v'Hashem Lakach. Yehi Shem Hashem Mevorach. There's a very famous pasuk. Many times they mention this by Levayot, and right? What does that mean? Right? He comes and he says, Hashem, Ani lo yachol. Hashem Natan v'Hashem Lakach. Yehi Shem Hashem Mevorach. Bechol zot. Ma? Bechol zot, he comes and he says, so he says, Adonai natam v'Adonai lakach, Yishem Hashem Yishem Adonai Merech B'Tavlam. Right? What does that mean? He comes and he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives and HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes. But no matter what, he's always blessed. That means the fact that he gave and the fact that he takes, right? He's always blessed. Bechol ze lo chatai Iyov v'lo natan tefillah l'Elokim. He says, nevertheless, right? Iyov did not sin and he did not give tefillah Lelokim. Vayhi hayom, and it was that day. Vayavo bnei Elokim litatzev. The malachim came in front of Hashem. Vayomer Hashem, Emi ze tavo. No, where are you coming from? Vayana Satan et Hashem vayomar b'shut ba'aretz v'talech ba. I was going around. Amal lefanav ribono shalom shati b'chol ha'olam. I went through the velo matzati kevdecha Avraham. I didn't see anybody like Avraham. Shamarta lo that you said kimu b'chol yilecha etenena. The Shasha bikesh likbor Sarah, when he wanted to bury Sarah, lo matzah makom lekuvra. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu, the entire land is yours. And when his wife passed away, he couldn't find a place for a burial place. We're not talking about the land anymore. Something just to bury a person. And even that he didn't find. He had to pay a fortune for it. And he did not. Vayomer Hashem LaSatan, hasamta li b'chalav di Iyov. Do you pay attention to Iyov? Ken kamu ma'aretz. Ve'odenu machzik betumato v'tetzinem bo le'o chinam. Right? So he says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Elmaleh mikra katuv, if it wasn't a pasuk, you can't say it, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is coming and he's saying, Ki'ilu Adam mesitin oto v'nisat. Right? What does that mean? He comes and he says, right? It's a bitui, that Ki'ilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a human being. Right? Ki'ilu, that's what he's saying. So he comes and he says, right? Hashem is punishing without any reason. He says, the reason why the tzaddikim are going to come and they're going to have problems is because, right, the Satan wanted Tekilu to swallow him up for no reason, right? So he comes and he says, "B'matznit Tana yored umateh ve'oleh umargiz v'notel reshut v'notel neshama." That is the Satan. The Satan is that he comes down to this world and he's mat'eh. He makes people do sins. He causes us to come and to fall. That is the Satan. Ve'oleh, but then he goes up umargiz and he gets HaKadosh Baruch Hu angry. So down here, that's what we call the Yetzer Hara, by the way, right? The Yetzer Hara, he comes, he causes us to sin. He goes up, and then he's margiz. He's a Satan. Then he becomes a Malach HaMavet. That means the same Malach is coming, and he's doing, right? He's coming and doing all the different things, all in one. So V'yomer Satan et Hashem v'yomar. So Satan comes and he tells Hashem, or be'ad or, right? What does that mean? One Eved for another Eved. Right? He's going to put everything there. Right? What does that mean? a person will choose one of his evarim, right, a makah, right, for another eved in order to save himself. That means basically, if somebody sees a sword coming down on his head, he's going to put his hand to protect his head. Now, his hand is going to be cut off. Yeah, but in order to save himself, he's going to cut off his hand in order to save his body, meaning to save him. So he says, "Ulam shelachna yadecha ve'gai latzmo ve'lbesaro imno al panecha v'recheka." Right? He comes and he says, right? It's like a sagi nahor. Vayomer Hashem and Satan, hino v'yadecha. Go do whatever you want with Eov. Ache nafsho shemo, but you can't kill him. Vayetzeh Satan met pnei Hashem v'yachet Eov. So he came and he hit him. He hit him with a shchin ra mikaf raglo ve'ad kod kodo. Right, mamash, he got a shchin. So basically, even after all these things, right, he still comes and he says, yeah, but nothing happened to him. Fine, you took away his children, you took away his properties, you took away the sheep. Nothing happened there. He gave him shchin. Yeah, 1 second. What? Shchin is boils. Because it's a translation, it's not a question. Yeah?
I didn't understand him yet. What is shchin?
Boils. Rabbi Yitzchak comes and he says, "Kashet tza'aro shel Satan yoter mishel Eov." Do you know the Satan, right? That means basically that he came and he had to punish Eov. It was more difficult his nisayon than that of Eov. More than mashal. Why? Because basically he had to afflict him, but he couldn't actually kill him. So for him, that was more difficult than even the suffering of Eov. Right? He says, Mashal, what does it compare to? It's kilo, I tell you, break the barrel, but you have to watch the wine inside of it. Break the barrel and watch the wine inside of it. So Amar Shakish says that Shakish, Hua Satan, Hua Yetzer Ra, Hua Malach HaMavet. It's the same guy. It's the same Malach. It's everything the same. He's a Satan, he's a Yetzer Ra, and he's a Malach HaMavet. Yeah? He says, obviously, this is going with which we just spoke about before. That he comes down, he's mateh, he goes up, he makes him angry, and then he's not rashud and he takes an neshama, right? So basically, he's just saying it's the same malach. He wants to say that it's not considered different. It's all one inyan, and therefore that's why he's like it's not the one malach. You know the famous concept: the one malach cannot do many different shlichuyot. It's all the same thing. So he comes and he says, "Who is Satan? How do we know it's a Satan? הוא היצר הכתיבת העם, it's written over there, וירא השם כי ברא את האדם וכל יצר משהו רק כל היום, וכתיב הכה, and it's written over here, רק אליו אל תשלח ידך, do not come, the meaning the רק, right? ומלאך המוות הכתיב, אך את נפשו שמור, עלמא בדידי קמאי. So we're talking about the same person, okay? Fine, נקודה. So therefore we have, this is a famous Gemara, same person, right? Same malach. Satan, יצר רע, מלאך המוות. Okay, fine. Or if you want in the chronological order of the events, Yetzer Ra, Satan, Malach HaMavet. Okay, next. Amar Bilevi, says Bilevi. Satan ufnina, L'Shem Shamayim nitkavnu. Right, 1 second. Yeah, the Satan and Penina, they were mechaven L'Shem Shamayim. What does that mean? It means that Satan at the end of the day, he's doing his job. And Penina also. We're going to explain. Satan, the Satan came in the Chazal Lakadosh Baruch Hu, Tenat Yadate Batariyo. Once he saw that he was like choosing Amar, Chas v'Shalom, Min Shelel Lachmanute Avraham, meaning Kilu, his kavanah was Chas v'Shalom. Hashem is going to forget about Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was Avraham. What? Hashem is going to forget? So he purposely did that. He purposely caused that Hakadosh Baruch Hu will now come and test Yov, right? Penina, right? And Penina also she did L'Shem Shemayim. Why? תכתיב וכייסת הצלתה גם כעס בעבור הרעימה כי סגר השם בעד רחמה. What does that mean? We know that when the Chana, yeah, we had Chana and Elkanah. Elkanah had Chana and Penina. Penina, right, she had all the children. Chana didn't have any children. So she was crying that she wanted, but Penina purposely made it that she would cause her to suffer in order for her to cry more and to pray more to Hashem. And therefore she did it L'Shem Shamayim. That really meant that Chana should come, and she should do it. And still, even though they were both right? מתכוון לשם שמיים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes. Because at the end of the day, even if you're going to do that, right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu still punishes, right, as we're going to see later on. Okay, so he comes and he says like this. So now we're going to see exactly what's going on. He says, Darash, Derasha Ravacha Bar Yaakov, Papunya, he was Doresh this of Rabbi Levi in Papunya, Ve'ata Satan v'nashke lekareh. So Satan came and he kissed him. He's saying that the Satan's a tzaddik. He's mitkaven l'shem shamayim. So he came and he kissed him. Yeah? You would like that, no, David? Satan comes and kisses you. Fine. Bechol zot, lo chata Iyov b'sfatav. But you know that Iyov still did not sin with his mouth. Meaning, even after all this Isurim, nothing. Amar Rava says, no, 1 second. Did you realize what it said? It said b'sfatav. He didn't sin with his sfataim. Right? B'sfatav lo chata, but b'libo ken chata. In his heart he did it. My kama, what does that mean? Eretz nitna biyad rasha, penei shoftea yichasea. Yichaseh. Im lo efo mihu. What does that mean? So basically, what did Yov say? Yov said that we could learn, but it says it's a land that was given in the hands of the rasha. Penei shoftea, right? Yichaseh. They're going to cover it over. Im lo. So he says, mihu. Who's the one that's bringing the 7 to the tzaddikim? Amar Rava says, bikesh Yov la'afoch ke'ara al piyah. He wanted to be oked all the kavod from a Kadosh Baruch Hu in lichfor. He wanted to be kofer ba'ikar, right? He wanted to do everything basically. Okay, so he says, Abaye says, Lo diber Yov lekeneged Satan. But really, be'emet, when it says the Rasha, right, he's talking about the chilek of the Yisurim which are coming, shelo al pi hatzedek. So the Gemara says, 1 second, isn't it tonight? It's machlok tonight. Eretz nitina biyad Rasha Rabbi Eliezer, Omer bikesh Yov le'afoch ke'ara al piha, Amar lo Rabbi Yoshua, Lo diber Yov lekapeh Satan. So basically, it's a machloket Tanaim. Was Yov speaking against Chas v'Shalom Hashem, right, or against Satan? Okay. Now, what is the ta'anot of Yov in front of Hashem? Al datcha ki lo ersha ve'em yadechem yetzin. He says, if I wanted, right, lo iti rasha, and if I'm a rasha, so that's how you created me. Meaning, the concept of free will. So Amar Rava says, Bikesh Yov liftor kol ha'olam kulo min adin. He wanted just to be protected the entire world from justice. Amar lefanav ribono shel olam, barat ashor, parsotav sedukot, barat hamor, parsotav klutot, barat gan eden, barat ginam, barat tzadikim, barat reshaim. Meaning, he's coming and say, listen, you were the one that created everything. You created a shor, and you were the one that you made the split hooves. You created the hamor, the donkey, and you were the ones that put them together. You created gan eden, you created ginam, you created tzadikim, you were the one that created reshaim. So therefore, who's stopping? Which means everything is there. We're like force majeure, meaning we have no form of free will. Yeah, that's what he's saying. So therefore, we should be patur from any type of punishment. What do the friends of Yov come and answer him? Afata taferira. Right? You should know that you are actually putting, right? That means the people that are listening are going to become lenient in Yirat Hashem. And you're going to cause that they're not going to pray anymore. Why? Because if anything, anyway, everything is already decreed upon from above. Look at this. Don't do anything. What does it help to pray? What does it help to do anything? It's all decreed. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Yitzhara, and he created the Torah as a tavlin. And therefore, it's still talui biyad Adam if he's going to be a tzaddik or a rasha. Meaning, we still have the power. Because just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Yitzhara, you're right, he created the Yitzhara, but he created the Yitzhara Tov. What's the Yitzhara Tov? The Torah. And the Torah is going to fight the Yitzhara. So therefore, right, you still have a choice. Meaning, he was basically at the beginning, Yov was saying, I have no choice. You created the Yitzhara. What do you want from me? Says what's it called? It says the friends of Yov to Yov, I don't understand you. That's incorrect. Why? They come and they say, because look what's happening. Yeah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created it. Darash Rava comes and he says, what does it mean in the pasuk? Birkat oved alay tavo v'lev almana arnin. Birkat oved alay tavo melamed shaya gozel sadem yetomim umashpicha umachzira lahem. Right? Do you know that Yov used to steal the fields from the yetomim, appreciate it, and then give it back to them? Okay, it's interesting. Okay, fine. So here he says it wasn't mamash gozel. because you're not allowed to steal. But rather, the Yitomim would think that it was stolen, right? And really, be'emet, he would come and he would do this in order to give it. Velev almana arnin, techol eichadav almana de lo vinatzvela lasvila havazil shadi shemea ilava v'got v'natzvela. Any place where there was an almana that nobody wanted to get married to her, right? Iyov used to come and put his name on her, and he used to say, she's my family member. And then what? Everybody would come and jump to get married to her. She's my cousin. Yeah, she's my cousin. Everybody's my cousin. You know how it is. Everybody's my cousin. Yeah, so she's my cousin. Yeah, and therefore,
like in Morocco, everyone is cousin.
Exactly, like in Morocco, everybody's cousin. Now, why? Since he was such an important person, everybody wanted to get married to her because everybody wanted to be family with Iyov. So therefore, right? No, we're talking about the beginning. 1 minute, right? So he says this is just showing the tzidkut of Iyov, right? Of how great of a person he was. Then it says, the Gemara is going to say also, divrei chiruf giduf, right? That he said. That means he said the things which were not fitting also. He says, Lusha kol yishakel kasi, v'avati b'moznaim yisu yachad. If the Shamayim would come, if they would put my sevel and the Isurim on, meaning if they would put all his suffering on one of the measures, right? And his avonot on the other one, right? Well, let's see who's going to win. So Amar Rav said, Afra lefume de Yov. There should be afar coming to his mouth. It should be dirt which comes to his mouth. Chavruta klape Shmaya, what? Is he a chavruta to Hashem? To tell him, come, let's start checking our let's start making accounts. That you're going to start saying, put my avonot on one side of the scale and come and put the suffering on the other one. Another chiruf. Lo yesh benenu mochiach yashit yadol shenenu. Right, we can't find somebody that's going to come and show who's the tzaddik, like who's the tzodek. Amar Rav, says Rav, again the same thing. Afra lefume diyov. You should have afar. Yeah, to the mouth of Iyov. He says, what? Klum yesh evet shemochiach ad rabo. You have a servant that he's rebuking his master. He's telling Kilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kilu, what this is the way what's going on here? Berit karati le'enai. Umayit bonen al betulah. The Brit Iyov's karat on his eyes was that not only did he not look at an Eshetish, but he didn't even look at a betulah. He didn't even look at a virgin. Meaning not only not a married woman. So not a married woman for Amarava, Afra from Iyov, again the same name. Iu b'achrayanata, he said that he did not look at another woman that wasn't his wife. But Avram afilu b'titelo yistakel. Avram Avinu didn't even look at his own wife. Tichtiv, as it says in Mareat. So therefore, you see that the Kala Anan Vayelach Ken Yored Lishol Lo Ya'aleh. Amar Rava comes and he says, what does that mean? That when a person's going to disappear, he's going to go down to Lishol, he's going to go down to the Geinam. Sheol is Geinam. Velo Ya'aleh. He won't come back up. So he says, from here we learn that Iyov was kafar b'tchiyat hametim. We know that one of our Yikarei Munah is tchiyat hametim. But if he's saying that the person is going to go down and disappear and won't come back up, that means what? He went against tchiyat hametim. Asher bisara yeshufeni. What does that mean? Asher bisara yeshufeni. Right? V'hilba. He comes and he says this. He says, Chinam. Amar Rabba comes and he says, right? Iyov b'se'ara chidef b'se'ara yishivu. When he came, he used the term se'ara. So the same words, they answered him as well. B'se'ara chidef, he came and he cursed, Kilu, he went against Hashem with a se'ara, dichtiv asher b'sara yeshufeni, with a sin, right? But he says, Amar lefanim v'sholam, shema ruach se'ara v'ra lefanecha v'nichalev lecha ben Iyov le'oyev. He comes and he says, maybe there was a ruach se'ara, there was a wind, right? But it was like not just a stum wind. Ruach se'ara is like a heavy, like a storm that came in front of you and you got confused between Iyov and Oyev, meaning it's the same letters, but just you have to switch the Yod and the Vav, right? So maybe you got confused. The Se'ara Yishivu, Dichtiv, Hashem answered him Se'ara, because he says, V'yan Hashem et Iyov min Se'ara v'yomar, right? Ezer nach gever chalatzecha v'shelcha v'odieni, right? Which means Se'ara and Se'ara is Lashon Se'ar over here. He comes and he says, we're talking about a hair. So he comes and he says, many times we switch between a samach and a shin. So he says, Amar lo harbeni min barati badam. Do you know that I created a lot of hair? I created a lot of hair. v'chol nima v'nima barati laguma b'fnei atzma. Do you know that for every single hair, you have a pore, which the hair comes out of? He says, shelo yushtayim yonkom migumacha, because you cannot have two coming out from the same place. Shilmaleh shtayim yonkom migumacha, because if you have two coming from the same place, machshichot makes the person blind. Ben guman leguman nichalefli, ben yov leoyev nichalefli. He says, between one little pore over here and another one, I didn't make a distinction. One little tiny hair and another hair. Imagine here, it's not even to proximity. Imagine the hair on the person's head. Between one little tiny that, he didn't make I'm going to make a mistake between a Yov and a Yev. He says, well, that's right. He came and he cursed Ki'ilu with Se'ara. He answered him with Se'ara. Mi pilag lashetef te'ala. Who was the one that divided? Like Peleg is half, remember. Who was the one that divided? And he made a ta'ala for the Megishamim, for the waters. Harbe tipim barati be'avim. Do you know I made so many drops of rain in the clouds? V'chol tipa v'tipa barati lotfus. And every single drop has its own form. Right? In order that you don't have two drops coming down together. Because if you would have two coming, it would come and it would make everything into teeth. And it would never come out with fruits. Right? So if I didn't come and make a problem between one tipa and another tipa, meaning I made a distinction. I'm going to make a mistake between a Yov and a Oyev. So he says, what does that mean that the word te'ala is a tfus? Because usually a ta'ala is like, like a furrow or things that, how do you know that it means here like a form, like an image? So he says, he says the pasuk, that Eliyahu Ravi, he made a ta'ala like a bet satayim zera, which means to get the water. So therefore it's like a form in order to receive the water. And a third pasuk showing the koach of Hashem, right, from this. What does that mean? We're talking about what's the difference between barak and ra'am. Right, lightning and thunder and lightning. I made a lot of different sounds in the avim, in the clouds. What do you know that every single sound has its own sound waves? So you don't have two sound waves in one shot. If you would have that, it would destroy the entire world just because of the sound. Meaning when it breaks the sound, it would be so powerful, it would destroy the world. Between one kol and another one, I'm not nitchalef. Ben Yov leoyev nitchalefli. I'm going to come and I'm going to make a problem between a Yov and a Oyev. Obviously not. Another one, a fourth one. Hayadata et ledet ya'ali ya'le sala cholel ayalot ishmor. There's one, the ayala. There's a famous one, right? What does that mean? Ye'ela zo achzarit al banea. This ye'ela, how do you translate ye'ela in English? Gazelle. G-A-Z-E.
No,
G-A-Z. E. E, exactly. Gazelle. Okay. So Gazelle. Ye'ela zo achzarit al banea. She's very cruel on her children. B'shah shekorat. Right? Laledet. Tetzayin mubet. 16b. So when a person comes, right, and is going to give birth, aolele rosh ahar. It's going to go on the top of a mountain because it lives in the mountains. As it says, harima givoim layelim. Slai machse lashvanim. So he says, he goes on top of the mountain in order that it should fall and it should die. I come and I get a nesher. Imagine, come finish sharim. All of a sudden, nesher comes flying and it accepts it. It's going to place in front of the mother. If it's 1 second too early or 1 second too late, miyad met, it would die. Ben rega le rega, right? Not chalon itchalefli. Ben Yov leoyev itchalefli. He says what? Between 1 second and another second, right? It's going to come and it's going to mean it's not going to. You're going to tell me between a Yov and a Yev. So this is another one. Fifth one. Holel ayalot tishmor. Now we're talking about the ayala. Yeah, how do you translate ayala? Gazelle again? You just said the ye'ela. They're both gazelle. Okay. With the aleph and the ayin. Fine. 1 second.
Ayala is a name in Israel.
Yes, it's a name. Yes. No, but we're talking about an animal, Jackie.
Yeah, I know, but no.
Yeah. So 1 second. He says like this. Cholel ayalot yishmor. What does that mean? Ayala zo, this ayala, he says rachmat tsar. Yeah, its rechem is very, very narrow, right? B'shah shekorat leledet. So when it's going to come and it's going to give birth, אני מזמין לה דרקון שמקישה בבית הרחם מתרפא ויולדת. So I come and I send it as a snake, which is going to bite it. And by biting it, it's going to make it more smooth, more open. It's like it opens it up and loose, and therefore it's going to open it up. It's going to give birth. So if I'm going to do it 1 second too early or 1 second too late, immediately will die. So ben rega l'rega lo nitchalef li, ben Iyov leoyev nitchalef li. So he comes and he says, by the way, you should know in footnote number 5, right? It's much better. It's 2 different animals because it says here, "Bishte dugmaot hacharonot metonim netanim akshim shebaim yoldot hayelot v'hayalot." It's much better. It's 2 different animals, but I don't know. It's like the Yael and then Ayala, Yael and Ayala, but I'm not sure. Next one, Iyov. Yeah, so he comes and he says this was the Yela, the mountain goat, and the regular, right? The what's it called? The mountain goat and the doe, or whatever you want to call it exactly. So Iyov lo bedaat yidaber is not going to speak bechokma. Udvarav lo beaskel, and it wasn't with wisdom as well. Amar Rava says mikan shenadam nitpas bishat tzaro. So from here you learn that a person is not going to be nitpas bishat tzaro, meaning that if a person comes and he says something when he's mamash suffering, you don't take him on his word. Because when a person is suffering, they're not thinking properly. So therefore, even though he said some shtiyot, as they say, right? But, tavor, right? Right? Tavor, yeah. Why? Because a person is not, he doesn't think with the head. Yeah. What happened? So he says, you have the 3 friends of Iyov. Yeah, he says, right? He says these are the 3 friends of Iyov. Okay? See. So the 3 friends of Iyov here, everything that came to Iyov, so they all came, right, to console him. What does it mean they came together? They came in the same city, right? And the thing is, Tana, it means even though there was 300 parsal between each one, meaning they were, one of them was in Honolulu, the other one was in completely different places, but they all came in with shar echad. They all came in at the same time. Yeah.
Same day.
Yes, they all came in at the same time to the gate. Okay, that means even though they came from way, meaning one of them is coming from America, one of them coming from China, one of them coming from Russia, but they all came in at the exact same moment to the gate to come and to console Iyov. So no. So he says Menavayad, but how did they know then? How did they find out about the suffering of Iyov? Some people say right? Some people say that each one of them had a klila, a keter, and they had 3 partsufim. Each partsuf had the name of the person. So when there was Yisurim coming on one of them, the partsuf on the keter would change. Everyone understood? One more time. They had a crown. The crown had 3 different faces, right? But there were 3 friends. So therefore, every single time, if something bad would happen to one of them, the face would change on the crown. Now all of them had the crown, right? So he says, that's one explanation. Some people say, right? Each one of them had 3 types of trees, right? On the names of the Kevin the Kamshi. Now, if the trees all of a sudden the leaves became all naval, how do you say withered? I think it is in English, no? Withered, I think it is in English. Yeah, withered. That's the word in English. Amar Rava comes and he says, so then they knew that something bad was happening. So he says, and that's what people say, O chavra ke chavre d'Iyov o mituta. He still doesn't understand it. It has to be like a chaver of chaverim shel Iyov. Chavruta o mituta. הם באים לנחם אותו.
בדיוק.
ויהי. Yeah, so he comes and he says this. ויהי כי החל האדם לרוב על פני האדמה ובנו יולדו להם. So this pasuk is talking about now the daughters. So he says, what does that mean? There were so many girls. There was a lot of girls that came. Very, very, meaning more than boys. Right? So therefore, right, obviously she could have children in much younger age. And Shaki says, it's not the Reviyah, but the Reviyah is like Terurvu. he says it's meriva. Meriva is machloket. So he says meriva ba'olam. Why? Because women come and they make a lot of machlokot. Because they come and they mekablot da'at balehem, and then they come and they sotor divrehem. So therefore it's machloket coming to the world. It's not leviyah. So Amar Shakish Rabbi Yochanan says Shakish Rabbi Yochanan Lidi Dachta Marta for you that he says Reviyah Ba'Olam, that it was Reviyah. Why didn't he have double of the amount of daughters? That means it says here after Zisurim, Yov had double, right, of the amount of children and the chush, everything. So he was Zachal Arba'asar Benim instead of 7 that he had beforehand. But the girls was still 3. Now the question is, why didn't you double it? Meaning he had 7 boys, they died. So now he had 14 boys. So now the girls was only 3. So why didn't it become? So he says, why wasn't it a kaful? Even though they weren't nichpelu in shemot, right, which is in numbers, nichpelu biyofi. They were doubled in beauty. That means they weren't doubled in numbers. Meaning he had 3 daughters. It wasn't now he also has 3 daughters, but it was now 3 daughters that were doubled in beauty, not doubled in numbers. And he didn't have 6 daughters now. He still had 3, but there were 3 which was beautiful, right? So he had shiv'ana, pamayim shiv'ana, which is double 7, right? So he says, banim v'shalosh banot. Vayikra shem achat yemima. Yeah, so one of them was yemima. Second one, Ketzia. And third one, Keren Afuch. Beautiful names, yeah. So he says, Yemima shaita doma layam. She was compared like to the sea. Ketzia shayar rechan odef ketzia. She had a good smell, a fragrance, like a bosom, like a perfume. Keren Afuch, amri de Rishila, shedoma lekarna de keresh. She was like a keren of a chaya, right? Which is called the keresh, which is like mamash. Anybody that touches them becomes blackened. He says this is an animal that has 2 karnaim, right? Okay, it could be that it's according to the Gemara and Chulin, it only has 1 keren, 1 horn, a unicorn. Yeah. So he says here, why? Karna de keresh lekutei, but it's bad. It's not something good. That she was like the daughter was like a karkum of like Besamim. So I mean, she was beautiful of all the other women. Shneimar ki tikri bapuch enaich. Fine. So this is just talking about the beauty of the daughters of Yov. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Berebi itialda lebarta. Do you know that Rabbi Shimon Berebi also had, right, a girl? So this is Rabbi Shimon, the son of Rabbi, had a girl. So he was upset. Amar le'avua, the father tells him, why are you upset? Right? Ledat bat means that there's going to be more children afterwards. Right? So therefore, what's the problem? So he says, Amar le'bar kapara, says bar kapara to Rabbi Shimon, tarchumin shel hevel nichamucha avicha. You know, your father, he wanted to console you with shtuyot. The Tanya was learned to the Braita, you need both boys and girls. What does that mean? Kilu only girls, you need boys and girls. Right, fortunate is the person that his children are boys, and woe to a person that his children are girls. Here, the Gemara is based upon the Gemara in Sanhedrin that they said that a girl is always, a father is always worried about her. Because at the end of the day, you know, he has to protect her, and, you know, she needs much more protection, and therefore, you know, he's always worried, and she's always giving him, you know, basically that's why he just says that that's one explanation. Other people say that it says, that his boys are like girls. That's what another explanation is. But anyway, either way, he's just saying fortunate is the person that has boys. A person always needs, you need in this world also perfume, but you also need a tanner, right? But fortunate that a person that he's a perfume guy, and woe to the person that he's a tanner. Why? Because he doesn't have a good fragrance. Yeah, fine. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Isn't that a machloket tanaim? Why? It says Vashem berechat Avraham bakol. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Abraham, he blessed him with everything. What does it mean by kol? Bakol. That's the biggest blessing, that you don't have a daughter. Yeah. So he says, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, shaita lo bat. He did have a daughter. That was the biggest blessing, that he had the daughter. Yeah. So he says, right? He comes and he says, right? Acherim come and they say, Bat Haitalo. He did have a daughter, Ubakol Shema, but the name was Bakol. Okay, it should have been Biba Kol. Okay, fine. But anyway. So he comes and he says, Bilazar Modai Omed, Istagninut Haita Belibo Shel Avraham Avinu. Right? He knew to gaze in the stars. Right? Shekol Malachim Mizach Umarav, Hayom Ashkenazi B'Chol, because everyone used to come and used to look to take Etzah from him. Shimon Bar Yochai Omed, right? And therefore, that's what he comes and he says. And that's the Pshat Bakol. Bakol means Kol HaMelachim were coming to him. That's the Pshat of Bilazar Modai. Shimon Bar Yochai Omer, Shimon Bar Yochai says, Evan Tova Ita Tluya Betzavaro Shel Avraham Avinu. He had a beautiful stone. Shekol Cholei Haroeh Oto Miyad Nitrapeh. Anybody that used to see it when he was sick, immediately would become cured. Okay, so that means again, Kol is Kol Haroeh Ota. That's a Pshat Kol. Okay, Usha Sheniftar Avraham Avinu in Haolam. So when Avraham Avinu passed away, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu begalgal chama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it on the sun. And that's why we say that the sun has curing powers. That's because of the Even Tovah that was by Avraham Avinu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and he placed it on the sun. Right? So therefore, by the way, these are all the different explanations. What is Hashem blessed Avraham with everything? So everything means, number one, he didn't have a daughter. Number two, he did have a daughter. Other people say he had a daughter and her name was Bakol. Or everybody used to come and ask him for advice, for counsel. Or that he had the stone, right? The stone, yeah, obviously, but that's a kol, right? He says, and the other one is the kol. Everyone used to come if they were sick to him. So that's everyone. That's a bakol. He blessed them with everything that everyone used to come to him. Abai says, that's what people come and they say, right? Idle yoma, idle ketzira. When the sun will come up, right, he will become better. Meaning it's like a new day, a new, like it's a new concept. Right? The same thing. Another explanation. Yeah, what does that mean now that he was blessed with everything? He was blessed bakol, that Esav did not rebel during his days. Okay? Ishmael did teshuvah during his days. Right? Right? So he says, how do we know that Esav did not rebel in his days? Tana, we learned, that was that same day. So therefore, Avraham Avinu made the tafshil. What was the food? Hadashim. So therefore, you see from here, right? That's why that's when he died. Why dafka hadashim? I mean, the hadashim doesn't have a mouth. What does that mean? There's no charitz. There's nothing there. It's just like so to an avel, he doesn't have a mouth. He basically sits and he's quiet. That's an avel. Another explanation. It's round. So to avelut is megulgelet. Mechazeret al kol ba'olam, because it goes on everybody. Meaning the world is round. Right? It's it goes around. My benayo, what's the difference between the two different pshatim? You can do it with eggs. You don't need lentils. You can do it with eggs. Fine. So now we're going to continue with Esav. So Esav, he rebelled on that day. So says the Gemara, Yochanan, do you know I once called him Esav Rasha, and one of the people here, he was shocked because he never heard it. But it's written here in the Gemara. The Gemara says it all the time. It's Esav Rasha. That was his title. Yeah. So he says Rasha beoto hayom, that he did in that day. But number one, Bal Naran Orasa. He violated a married woman. She was meorasa. She was engaged, but that's a married woman. Number two, Aragat Nefesh. He murdered. Kafar beikar. He went against Hashem. Kafar betchiyat hametim. He rejected that there's no such thing as tchiyat hametim. Veshat et bechora. And he disgraced the bechora. Those were the 5 different avirot. How do we know? Bal Naran Orasa. The first one. He sold it. Yeah? Bal Naran Orasa. He went and he violated a married woman. That he found her in the field. And that's where he violated her. So since it comes that he came from the field, so he violated a woman that she was Nara Meorasa. Harakat the Nefesh, she went and he killed. The Pasuk in Yirmiyah says, woe that he's tired of killing. So therefore, when it says the terminology of tired by Esav, it means that he killed. Kafar beikar ktiva chatzot lama zeli bechora. Why do I need this? And it's written ze'eli v'amril. This is my God, and I'm going to glorify Him. So therefore, that's to do with Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, I don't need this. Kafar b'tchiyat hametim dichtiv is written hinei anochi olech lamut v'lama zeli bechora. And therefore, he says he's going to die. 1 second, but you can still come back to tchiyat hametim, but it doesn't matter. That he disgraced the Bechorah. How do we know now that Yishmael actually did Teshuvah? And that is the pshat that he blessed him with everything. It says, Minalan. Ravina bar Buzi. Rava, Ravina and Buzi were sitting in front of Rava. Rava was dozing off. I have that a lot in Shiur. Yeah? Amale Ravina Ravchama bar Buzi. He says, right? He says, Ravina tells Ravchama bar Buzi. Vadai de Amritu, is it true that they said, Kol mita sheyesh ba givya, anytime when it's written, Vayigva, Zoi mitatan shetzadikim? It says in the Torah, Vayigva vayamot. So anytime that it's written, Vayigva, or givya, it means that it's a death of tzadikim? Elmaleh, he says, yes. The Dora Mabul Amar, he says, the Dora Mabul, it says, Vayigva. So he says, Elmaleh, anan gviya, v'asifa kamina. We're talking about gviya together with asifa. That's what's said by, so he says 1 second, but it's written Givya v'asifa by Ishmael. It says ve'ele shnei chayishvel v'yigva v'yamod v'yasef elamav v'yasef elamav. That means it says Givya and asifa. So at the hachit v'rava, Rava all of a sudden wakes up. Amarlu, and he tells them, Dardeki, children. He tells them, this is what Rabbi Yochanan says. Yishmael asad tshuva b'chayaviv. Shnemar v'yikbelu oto Yitzchak v'Yishmael banav. What does that mean? It first says Yitzchak and then Yishmael. Who is older? Yishmael, how many years? 14. 13 years he did the Brit Milah. 1 year later, that's when Avraham Avinu had the Yitzchak. He was 14 years older. So says the Gemara, V'dilma derech chokhmatan. What? One second. V'dilma derech chokhmatan kachashivlu. He comes and he says, maybe it's derech chokhmatan. Maybe it's a chokhmah. Right? So he says that's what the Gemara asks. So he says, but rather no. Right? He says, my time alo chashivlu derech chokhmatan. Why doesn't it say there like chokhmah? Yaakov obviously was smarter than Esav. Meaning, if you're going to tell me that the Torah is always going derech chokhmah, so just like it said by Esav and Yaakov, it should have said Yaakov first. So to hear, the fact that he gave him first, right? He went and he gave him the kavod. That means he did teshuvah during his lifetime, and that's exactly how we see it.
Because